Hey everybody, it's PartyElite, and today we're finally kicking off a brand new playthrough in Workers and Resources Soviet Republic with the upcoming 1.0 version of the game, plus the first DLC for the game too. Thanks to the devs and publisher, I've got early access to both ahead of their release in a couple weeks, and before I get too far, I do want to mention that this episode will have timestamps below to skip around if you'd like, and that outside of the channel, I am affiliated with the publisher Hooded Horse. For more information on that affiliation, you can check out the video linked in the description down below, but to put it quickly, they have no influence on the videos I make on the channel, of course. I just like to mention that I work with them outside the channel for the sake of transparency. I've got a nearly 250 episode long series on the game from before Hooded Horse became the publisher, so it's safe to say that I was going to play when 1.0 came either way, considering it's hands down my favorite modern city builder ever since it released into early access, and considering I promised I'd be back with 1.0. Enough about that. Let's talk briefly about the DLC. The devs have been making massive DLC-sized updates to the game for free for years now, so it's nice to see them come in with this DLC that they'd previously teased in their dev diaries. It introduces populated and unpopulated maps featuring one of 3 new biomes, each with their own impacts on key features and mechanics. So, tundras will have harsher winters and less time for agriculture in a year, for example, needing more attention with regards to heat distribution and snowplows. Or the tropics will have constant rain and muddy roads with tons and tons of trees, while on the flip side, the desert will be largely barren, limiting the logging industry, causing water-related hardships, and generally being hot. For this playthrough, I'm going to be playing on the desert map with existing towns, but they're going to be abandoned. And I'm going to be coming through in the 60s, actually, in search for oil to make this a prosperous and glorious Soviet Republic. Now, as we dive in, it's probably a good idea to take a look at what game settings we're going to be playing with for what I suspect will be a fairly long playthrough. For those of you that are familiar with the game, you'll quickly understand what I mean when I say we're going to be playing on realistic difficulty. But you might still be curious as to what exactly all this means if you've forgotten, or if you're completely unfamiliar with the game, you might want to sit around to understand exactly what we're going to be dealing with. If you don't care at all, again, timestamps down below so you can skip on ahead and dive right into gameplay. First things first, let's go ahead and reflect what we've already described. That means the population is going to be brought down to 0 to reflect the fact that there is nobody actually living in this region. It's been abandoned for whatever reason, it's been evacuated, people have lost hope. But in the 60s, I'm coming through because my prospectors have found oil, and I'm going to use it to revitalize the region and build a glorious Soviet Republic. Apart from that, yes, we're playing on realistic difficulty. What does that mean? Well, first things first, all of these settings can be fine-tuned individually. We're not going to do that. We're going to go all the way here. So, money amount is hard. That means we're going to start with a limited amount of both rubles and dollars, making things a bit more challenging at the beginning, and making it that much more important for us to sort of stay on top of things right from the start. Construction is going to be set to realistic mode, and this is a massive game changer. In realistic mode, you cannot instantly build buildings and infrastructure like you can in most modern city builders. You can't just plop a building down and expect it to build up out of nothing. That's how you go about in not realistic mode. In realistic mode, instead, you have to actually bring the raw materials and the resources needed to build that building, either from foreign imports or by, acquiring it from the land. You gotta bring all that to the construction site. Then you gotta bring actual construction workers to the construction site, and then you watch them build the building using various construction vehicles, cranes, and all sorts of good stuff. So, it is an extremely involved process even to put a single building up, and I absolutely love it. I find it fascinating. Moving on, we have the unsatisfied citizens' reaction set to great, which means that if they're not having a good time, they're absolutely going to let us know. And on that note, folks, I should mention really quickly, if you're having a good time, if you'd like to see more Workers and Resources Soviet Republic on the channel, make sure you let me know by leaving a like and a comment down below. But I digress. Moving on, energy management is set to both buildings and vehicles. That means that our buildings will require power lines and our vehicles will require fuel. Otherwise, we have water management enabled as well, which means we're going to have to take care of the availability of water for our people to drink and for our industries to use as well. We're going to have to manage wastewater and sewage and things like that, and the cleanliness of water as well. Lots of infrastructure options get made available because of having water management enabled. Then as far as waste management is concerned, we're going to deal with both waste and demolition. This means waste byproduct needs to be handled one way or another. We need to export it, we need to store it, we need to reuse it. And separately, when it comes to demolition, we actually will need demolition offices to go and take buildings apart piece by piece using the right vehicles, using the right workers, because you can't just click on a building and say, yeah, I'm done with you, I'm going to replace you now. Instead, it's a whole multi-step process. Again, I absolutely love that you can go that far into the simulation here, and I'm looking forward to dealing with all these kinds of little things that, get in the way, so to speak, where in other city builders you can often just like click and say, yeah, okay, I'll get rid of this, I'll build a new highway here or whatever it might be. So I'm loving some of these harder options for sure. Otherwise, maintenance is going to be enabled. That means vehicles will need servicing and buildings will need maintenance as well. Seasons are enabled, which means summer and winter are a thing, but we are in a desert biome, so not sure how much of an impact that's actually going to have for us here. But in other maps, it absolutely does. You'll see snow come through and you'll have to take care of heat and all that good stuff as well. Building fires are going to be frequent and global events are going to be serious. Global events can have an impact on the market, so if I'm overly reliant on exporting a certain good to prop up my economy and all of a sudden a global event happens that reduces the value of that good, my entire economy is going to suffer. So I like the idea of having global events set to serious. Otherwise, pollution is going to be enabled. That means factories will create pollution, and that'll negatively affect citizens. It'll impact their health if they're, downwind, so to speak, and that's obviously going to cause strain on our, medical infrastructure. The education system is going to be complex. That means we're going to have to teach kids at a school. We're going to need kindergarten to make sure that parents can keep their kids at kindergarten and then go to work. The education system is quite complicated, actually. There's universities. You want people to actually get their degrees because then they have access to higher level things, all kinds of good stuff. So education simulation is set to complex. Crime and justice is enabled as well, and that again unlocks a slew of, service sector buildings, because it's not infrastructure. It's like, legislation and judicial stuff, the courts and police and things like that. So that'll be good. Our traffic simulation is going to be complex. Again, that changes how traffic works throughout the city in terms of simple just being kind of first come, first serve at an intersection versus complex actually having a certain set of more realistic rules that might impact the flow of traffic. Researches being enabled is going to be a huge game changer as well. A lot of seemingly simple things won't be available to us because we've enabled researches. For example, building larger apartment buildings using prefabs, that won't be an option for us. We're going to have to start small, we're going to have to establish universities, we're going to have to do research, and only then will we gain access to these more and more complex buildings and resources and capabilities in terms of game mechanics in general. So that's going to be another big game changer apart from the realistic mode construction and the realistic demolition as well. And apart from that, cosmetics, we've got some moving sun, so we'll have a day-night cycle going. And we'll also just lock vehicle availability to the start year, as opposed to locking according to when they became unavailable in the real world as well. I think that makes sense to me. Again, it's the default setting for realistic settings, and it just means that once a vehicle started to be manufactured in our alternate history, we'll keep manufacturing it and keep purchasing it if we so desire. I think that makes perfect sense. And that's why, again, choosing the decade that we're starting in is such a big deal. But because of our story, like I said, it's going to be the 60s. And that's the settings all described. Hopefully they all make sense. But if anything is unclear, feel free to ask me in the comments down below. I will happily explain these settings and why I'm choosing them, because honestly, this stuff makes the game so compelling. But with that said, folks, let's go ahead and actually dive in to the game. All right, so welcome to the massive Desert Biome map. As with all Workers and Resources maps, it is absolutely gargantuan, and again, because this is a populated map, even though we've reduced the population right down to 0, we are going to see little villages and little towns here and there. All their buildings will be completely empty. No one's living in them. They've been abandoned. They're dilapidated, but we're going to come through and we're going to use them as probably guiding lights with regards to how we might expand. Like, I can see a future where Kanave and Al Rabi over here become one giant city as opposed to two tiny little villages, basically, is what they look like. And we'll see countless opportunities to expand these existing developments and make them into something greater than they ever could have been on their own. But the first order of business, before I get ahead of myself over here, is to take a look at the map and to find oil. like I said, as a part of our story, our prospectors have found oil, which is why we're sort of exploring this area in the first place. Now, we can't actually use the minimap to find oil right now because we don't have the right technology researched. Again, because we've set researches to be enabled as far as difficulty is concerned, we'd need geological mapping for us to see exactly where oil exists across the entire map. The same goes for some of our other resources as well, such as coal and iron ore, and then otherwise, there's like bauxite exploration study and uranium mining techniques for other resources as well. But right now we're concerned with geological mapping. Even though we can't map the entire map at once, we are able to still take a look at the localized areas by using our pump jack as a sort of prospect. Oh my god, what are the chances? There's oil everywhere here, isn't there? What are the chances we find a source of oil right off the bat? But this is what I mean. I can kind of hover around with a pump jack manually to find oil and tap into it. What are the chances? What are the chances? Now, unfortunately, this isn't a great region otherwise, and I'll explain why in just a moment, but let's remember that Al-Rabi over here is right next to some pretty good quality sources of oil, because we might have to come back to them. I mean, it's not the worst possible location. Actually, no, it's pretty bad for a couple of reasons. I'm going to express to you what my original plan was for a process of elimination to focus in on one place to look at, because, if I go around the whole map looking for spots with oil, my goodness, there is so much oil here. You know what? I guess that makes sense. We're going to be rich. We're going to be rich. But, typically it's a lot harder. There we go. If I'd started here, I'd be like, there's no oil. I can't find any oil. And I'd be, out of luck for a very, very long time. So I was going to have a whole process of elimination, which I'm going to apply anyway. And that process of elimination involves trying to get myself right next to the border where I can get access to both NATO and Soviet allies. Now, there's only two corners where that's possible. One's all the way up over here, and the other is where we were, and you can see the scale of the map as we bounce from one end to the other. Now, the thing about this corner is while we do have access to water and we can send ships out to trade by sea, it looks as though there aren't any customs houses that give us access by road or by rail to any foreign Soviet entities in this general area, and I believe we don't have anything for NATO friends either. Yeah, no access via road or rail. There's no access to electricity to import or anything like that either. But if we go to the other corner, which is our other hope, here, we'll hopefully see NATO border, Soviet border. And yep, so you can see we've got a customs house over here with which we can trade all kinds of goods at a cost, obviously. We've got access to power as well. And we also have a rail connection. So if we wanted to, export goods en masse, then we can use trains to ship a lot out. I believe I saw, yep, up over here from the western side, we have access to power as well. We've got a rail connection and a road custom house, which means we can use dollars to trade goods as well. So again, rubles and dollars are tracked separately, right? So that's an option. This feels like a much better spot. There's a small town over here we can develop around. We can develop around this one as well. We probably want to go on the Soviet side because, well, there's a second customs house, and this one also has my preferred kind of power connection for starters, because we can more easily import power with one of these. More easily, I say, that extends into meaning more cheaply in realistic mode. So that's actually quite good. We have a much bigger rail connection over here with 3 tracks, and of course the road connection itself to bring us various goods through ruble. So this is definitely feeling like a much better spot, and having, reduced our general map down to this corner for starters, my plan was to go ahead and pop open the pump jack and look for oil. Knowing my luck, there isn't going to be any in this region, because that is just my luck. Oh, hello. Okay, so there's a bit down over here. I thought I saw the numbers change. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Oh, wow. It's everywhere. I was going to say I'm going to cut away. We'll come back to it after I've done my looking around. But it's literally everywhere. Whole 94%. Oh, this is great. Is there... And there's more out here. 100% almost? Okay, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. Where there's trees, there's oil. I mean, I suppose that makes sense. All right, okay. Okay,
So, Soviet side. Ashkahal might be where we start. This might be a little too far away. Is there any oil in this? There is. The percentages here aren't fantastic compared to what I saw briefly over here, the 80s and the 90s. That's a lot nicer. All right, decision made. We're going to go with Ashkahal as our home base. We'll start small, we'll grow bigger and bigger. That's the ultimate challenge, right? So let's go ahead and plan our approach here real quick. I'm not going to drop down a couple of pump jacks right off the bat, as tempting as that might be. I really didn't expect to find so much oil so quickly, but hey, I guess our story is holding water, or holding oil, as the case might be. Instead, we first need to provide access to some of the core basic necessities. And you're probably thinking, well, party, of course, that's how these things always go. People need access to food, water, power, clothes, things like that, right? And yeah, sure, you're right. But when you're playing Workers and Resources Soviet Republic, especially on realistic mode, things get even more basic than that. Who's actually building the grocery store where the people will go to buy their food? In fact, where's the steel and bricks coming from that'll help build that grocery store where the people are going to go to buy their food? Things get a lot more in-depth in this game, and so without further ado, folks, let's get this party started, shall we? We've gone ahead and prospected where we're going to get our initial oil from. We've picked out a village that we're going to grow into our initial town and then city. So why don't we go ahead and establish a construction hub accordingly. This is going to house a bunch of construction offices and access to resources that we need in close proximity to facilitate the construction and expansion that's planned for Ashkakal. I don't want this to be too far away because that means vehicles will have to drive for, miles on end just to drop off a pile of bricks from time to time. But I also don't want it to be so close that it gets in the way of our immediate expansion plans, right? I want to have some room here so that Ashkakal can grow in all directions as it pushes towards the river and pushes further down south as well, we'll call it, even though I'm not 100% sure that is south. That's actually northwards, fair enough. But yes, point being, I want to find a sweet spot for these construction offices and things like that, and this feels like a good one. Quite a trek, but I think we'll be happy for this decision down the line. Going to go ahead and extend the road out this way, and very quickly just want to mention, folks, the reason why I'm using dirt and mud roads is because they can be placed freely. They're just made of the land, right? Whereas if I wanted to put down, say, gravel roads or proper asphalt roads, I'd actually have to bring in those resources. I'd have to get pavers and rollers and all that good stuff, which, yes, we'll eventually have, but we don't just quite yet. Apart from that, another thing I want to mention really quickly, folks, is that if you would like to see more Workers and Resources Soviet Republic on the channel, please don't hesitate to let me know by leaving a like and a comment down below. As always, I do read all of the comments, so if you have any thoughts, opinions, suggestions, questions, anything like that, feel free to drop them down there. They will get read and addressed in one way, shape, or form. And apart from that, I do get a quick read on people's interest with the number of likes and comments. It's always a quick and easy read to understand what people want more or less of on the channel. Now, let's go ahead and pop down some of these construction offices. We have to flatten the terrain a little bit, and that's okay. It's going to take some money from us, as you can see, but gotta spend money to make money, right? Let's pop this construction office down there. Let's get another one right down over here. Sounds good. And can I get a third one over here without too much flattening required? Yes, I can. Let's pop you down. Go ahead and extend the road a bit further and hook you up like that. Beautiful. So those are our construction offices. We're going to go ahead and establish a fuel station is the word that comes to mind, because fuel is what we fill it with, but it is actually a gas station, which I can find over here. Where are we refueling? We got some free gas stations available, and this will of course keep our vehicles topped up and make sure they don't have to travel some long distance just to get some gas and keep going. When we purchase vehicles, when they arrive, they're going to come on an empty tank, well, a near empty tank. So I want to make sure we have a gas station available here, and we're going to actually put down a second gas station much closer to the custom house up over here. And this gas station is going to facilitate a different kind of building that is also essential for us to start with. So first, let's pop this gas station down over here. That feels about right. And let's go ahead and establish the distribution offices. We get some of these for free as well. Of course, that's all we can afford for the time being. And what distribution offices do is, well, they distribute goods from one place to another. And this can be all manner of goods depending on the vehicles that we purchase for the offices, depending on where we tell them to go to pick stuff up and where we tell them to go drop stuff off. I think we'll just need the 2 for the time being. Let's go ahead and connect you, again, using the dirt road right up to there. And let's go ahead and do this kind of a thing. Or hook you up like that, and hook you up like that. Again, we can always get rid of these and adjust them down the line, but this should help facilitate the movement of goods to start with. What we're going to do is get the distribution offices to purchase a couple of vehicles right off the bat here. We're going to spend our rubles. We have plenty of rubles. And perhaps a bad decision, but what's life without a couple of those, right? I'm going to chase after vehicles with the highest total capacity right off the bat. My thinking is that these vehicles will probably last long enough such that I'll need them working at that high capacity, so I might as well get them now. The reality is probably that they're going to fall apart because of a lack of maintenance between now and then, but hey, we'll deal with that when we get there. They're not all that expensive. Anyway, first things first, I'm going to go ahead and buy the T138 cistern. This is able to move liquids around. As you can see, it's the cargo type of oil tank, which means it can move a few different kinds of liquids around, including what we need, fuel. So we'll buy one of those. We'll go ahead and purchase what else? We need ourselves a dumper because we're going to need plenty of gravel for construction purposes, and eventually we're going to need coal as well, and I'll explain why shortly. But first, yes, let's get this BZ252 dumper for the 25 tons of gravel it can move at a time. And what third building for this distribution office? I'm thinking we get ourselves the open hull truck for the time being, because we're going to need steel boards, we're going to need bricks right away, so let's go ahead and do that. It won't be long before we need like the covered hull vehicle as well. We're going to need mechanical components and electronic components for construction, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Set that aside for the time being. I'm also going to go ahead and well, we know where these resources are going to come from. It's this custom house where we'll be buying and importing from. But where are those resources going to go? Well, let's establish storage down over here. I'm going to go ahead and build what first? Well, let's get ourselves a small free aggregate storage where we can store our gravel, and eventually we'll get a second one and we'll use that to store our coal. I might not use a free one for that actually, and I'll explain that when we get to it. I'm trying to figure out exactly where I want to place all this down. Maybe down over here makes sense actually. Initially I was thinking this whole place could be lined up with some of these storages, but I mean this one can be right over here. I don't see why not. So let's go ahead and flatten the terrain a little bit and pop you down. Sure. You, my good friend, are going to store gravel. Yep, that sounds good to me. And then otherwise, we also need storage for our other construction material. Now, aggregate storage only allows you to store one thing per storage area because you can't really mix aggregates, but different materials and different types of storages operate differently. So for example, I want an open storage as well. We can get this free one. Again, there's a limit to how many of these free ones we can establish, but until I hit that limit, I'm going to be using them. You can see how the terrain is kind of working against us. We can do terraforming, but before we can do that, there are certain vehicles we need to establish at the construction offices, and truth be told, right at the beginning, I don't think terraforming is our priority. Our priority is getting some of the, well, or basic necessities in place. So let's go ahead and flatten you, get this open storage down over here. Sounds good. And the open storage can actually store steel and bricks and boards because they're not going to mix and match in the storage piles. So that's destinations for all of the resources that we need most immediately. Let's then go ahead and purchase some vehicles for the construction office. So this one over here, let's go ahead and buy for you what? Again, going by total capacity, we're going to want a bus to facilitate the movement of actual workers, right? So let's get ourselves a bus. Let's go ahead and get ourselves an open hull truck to move steel boards and bricks. One of those is enough for the time being, I think. Let's go ahead and get ourselves the dumper as well, again, to move as much gravel at a time as possible. I mean, construction sites don't necessarily need that much at a time, the early ones that we're going to pursue, but again, I'm future-proofing, right? That's what we'll call it. So short, let's get this dumper, and let's get ourselves the T138 mixer. There's some interesting materials that work slightly differently. So the dumper, for example, is able to get gravel and asphalt. But you'll notice that I only have have an aggregate storage for gravel. Where's the one for asphalt? Well, you can't store asphalt like that. So the dumper is actually going to have to go all the way to the customs house to pick some up, bring it over to a construction site, and dump it. So heads up, there are some things like that. And the reason why I mentioned that while looking at the mixer is because concrete is one of those goods that you can't store in a free storage location. And so, yes, we're going to get ourselves the T138 mixer that's going to go also all the way to the customs house to pick up concrete and drop it directly where it's needed. So those are our 4 vehicles determined over there. We can go ahead and purchase similar ones over here. Go ahead to total capacity, get the bus, get the dumper, get the open hull, get the mixer, and then the last one, what I'll probably do is buy not the bus, and instead I'm going to go ahead and get the dumper, the open hull, the covered hull, because we will need to eventually move all these other resources, electronic components and mechanical components, and the mixer? Sure, the mixer. Cool. Now we've got our 3 construction offices. I'm going to tell the first one to source everything from this customs house, except of course we're going to tell it to get the gravel from here. We're going to tell it to get steel, bricks, and boards from here. That means anything that we can store in these general areas, we will, and these vehicles won't have to travel all the way to there. Anything we can't store in this area, they will travel all the way to there. So we're controlling things a bit. And I say store, I'm talking about goods, obviously, but workers will naturally be coming from the customs houses. We'll be bringing in foreign workers for the time being. Anyway, this construction office is focusing up over there, and I think that makes sense. This other construction office, you're also going to focus up over here, except we're going to get workers from this spot over here. That way we're getting foreign workers from there and from here. And of course, we're going to make the same changes to our various other resource sources. Gravel from here, steel, bricks, and boards from over here. Then eventually we'll of course make adjustments as we get more and more resources in the area. All right, separately, these guys, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and tell you to get everything from up there. And of course, steel, bricks, boards over here. Mechanical and electronic components will come from over there for the time being. We do not have warehouses yet. I believe you cannot build any free warehouses. They have to be paid for. And that might not be a bad thing to build early, actually, just to facilitate some of this stuff. Something to think about. Our workers are coming from there. Our gravel is coming from here. Everything else is set up right. All right, perfect. Cool. So, with all that in place, have I not got? I have. A gas station. I think we can get time moving, actually, and start importing some of these resources. So, yeah, let's go ahead and hit play and see our vehicles arrive. Slowly but surely, of course. They'll take their sweet time. They'll make their way over to their designated offices, and I'll be able to assign them tasks right away. So the cistern, for example, is coming on over. And if I go ahead and pause for a second, you'll see I can add this as a connection for where we're going to import things from. But because the vehicle hasn't arrived yet, it's not sure exactly what we can pick up, and I'll let it know shortly. I should also tell it to unload things there and all the way over here. And as soon as this vehicle arrives, we'll see some options pop up over here. So give it a second, and there you go. Grab fuel, and please drop them off at these destinations. And it'll get to work right away. And you'll notice actually the vehicle itself has next to no fuel to start with, and all of our vehicles come through with that state. I really hope you go to the right gas station first. Are you going to come to this one first, eh? That's fair enough. Let him do his work. But this whole convoy of initial vehicles coming through right now. This is what's going to establish the foundation of this glorious republic. These humble initial vehicles that I've probably spent way too much money for, but hey, you live and you learn. I think it was the right call. Regrets are for later. But anyway, as these vehicles are pouring out, our poor cistern here is just like waiting its turn. Are we almost done? Oh, still a few more. Speed time up a little bit over here. Because we're just waiting at this point in time. We're just waiting for things to get into position. We're waiting for fuel to be distributed. And actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and remove this gas station for the time being, because the distant gas station is much more important for the time being. Nah, you're going to ignore me, aren't you? Yeah, because it had already gone out for this task. Fair enough. As you can see, this gas station is topping up on fuel, and now these vehicles are immediately going to go over and get themselves some gas, and the cistern itself is going to loop back and get itself some gas. All right, fair enough. Let's go ahead and add you back in, buddy. Sure. So that's not all this distribution office can get. Obviously, we purchased those other vehicles for a reason, and that's because we can get gravel. We can also get, you guessed it, steel, boards, and bricks. But we have to establish where exactly we want those to be unloaded, because right now it's a simple, answer. But in the future, when we have multiple storage areas, you want to get very specific about what goes where and from where. So let's go ahead and add these to this one's circuit and make sure we are unloading gravel, steel, boards, bricks. Cool. And now with all that in place, we'll see these vehicles start to go out, pick up their resources, spend rubles in order to do so, and then bring them back to where they're being stored. I want to make sure that up over here, we're not buying 95 tons of steel, because we're never going to need that much at a time, and it's going to absolutely bankrupt us. I want to make sure we're not leaving room for plastic waste or uranium oxide, because we're not chasing after those just quite yet. We might eventually choose to import wood to then process it into boards. And if I take a look at the economy and trade screen here, we'll see that wood is how expensive? We can buy it for about, let's say, 10 rubles a ton, and boards can be sold for about 12 rubles a ton. It's not really worth the time and effort that goes into all that movement. On the topic of which, look at all this movement. These guys are lining up to get fuel, so I guess the cistern finally delivered, eh? All right, fair enough. These guys are going to get their gas, and we should get them to work shortly. But one thing I am going to chase is the production of bricks and the export of bricks. And the other thing we're going to chase, of course, is the production of oil and its export, the production of fuel and its export, and of course other byproducts such as bitumen. There are other extremely valuable products as well, of course, and they just take a lot more efforts to actually produce. So big picture thinking for down the line. For the time being, we'll export some simple goods. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted. Let's keep steel at a controllable, affordable level. All this is looking good. We want to make sure that there's enough at any given time to actually facilitate construction, because if a truck comes through to pick up 14 tons of steel and there's only 13, well, it's not going to get that 14th ton, obviously. And if a construction site needs 14 tons of steel, it's going to have to wait for a second shipment for that last ton. So a lot of balancing act stuff if you want to get into the nitty-gritty, and for the time being, I don't think I will. But up over here, let's get this distribution office some vehicles as well. Let's get you, what? The dumper and the open hull for the time being, sure. We'll get the closed hull later, I think. Let's go ahead and assign you as a connection for loading, because we're importing, not exporting. And let's go ahead and assign you guys as drop-off points, and loading, of course, the exact same things. Unloading, the exact same things as well. Cool, that should make the flow of goods happen at a decent rate, and let's actually get some construction projects going so these guys aren't just idling, right? Let's take a look at how we want to expand. There's actually a lot to do here. I'm thinking Ashkakal is going to, yes, kind of grow in a kind of circular pattern over here. Obviously, I say circular, but eventually it's going to take all kinds of funky shapes, I'm sure. But to that end, this is probably going to be the future center, and so I think we'd be wise to put some shopping in this central area. Now, when it comes to shopping, we have a bunch of options. We're going to keep things pretty simple. Yes, I could go right in with a massive shopping center that sells food and clothes and electronics, 35, 24 tons. Oh my goodness, so much. But no, that is overkill. This is a tiny little village. Let's try and play realistically. That's what I like most, right? Playing realistically. So to that end, we're just going to get a small grocery store. It sells some food and some meat, if you want to bring some of that in. It also needs to be paired with a small store where people can get their clothes and their electronics. Some of these needs are more urgent than others, obviously, but that makes sense to me, as opposed to bringing some of these, giant shopping malls into the picture right off the bat. So let's get a grocery store established down over here. I think we want to make sure it's within walking distance of all these guys. Is that really the center? Guess so. Yeah, and I'm trying to build on this side so that we have plenty of room for expansion onto this side for all of our oil, movement that we might need empty room for. I want to make sure we have some space there. So I'm starting with construction all leaning on this side. So sure, this grocery store, actually, I think the grocery store should go closer to the houses that are already established. And we'll pop you down over here. Gonna go ahead and demolish that road because, again, we're not investing in these expensive roads. It's just dirt roads for the time being. So pop you down. We can upgrade them later. Go ahead and suspend construction for the time being because I'm still planning. So we get you down there. Let's get ourselves a small store over here. We do not want to connect the factory connections. Those yellow arrows are meant for other things, not for this connection. And I might not use that other thing right off the bat, but I certainly want to plan for it. So let's go ahead and establish a factory connection, rather a factory connection crossing, like so. I want to make sure it's nice and neat. Try and get this as gridded as possible. So pop you down as close as possible too, because I don't want wasted space. Right there, cool. And make sure that you are also suspended, because you I don't need for the time being for sure. Let's get ourselves that small store as well. And this guy's gonna fit snugly over here. Hopefully everything's still in walking distance. Yes, indeed it is. So people don't have to take a bus to make their way over. Get you as close as possible. Wonder if I can place the road afterwards. I have to demolish it anyway. That's going to be at a slight angle. That's fine. It's not the end of the world. Anyway, this factory connection allows me to more easily move goods around later. We can get forklift garages, and we can get forklifts to move goods from a warehouse that's in the area into these various stores. So, for example, I might want to establish a nice big warehouse. This warehouse can store food and clothes and electronics as well, which is what all these guys sell. And so there you go. I've got a warehouse connected directly to these guys, and a couple of forklifts from a forklift garage can just keep moving those goods without me needing to bring some trucks out, for example. It's a lot more efficient. Again, I'm not going to be doing that right now, and the first warehouse I'm going to build is probably this one because it's significantly cheaper and smaller and more sensible for what we're up to here. I mean, I can certainly plan for it. Doesn't hurt to plan. But again, I need a forklift garage first. I'll need a road connection as well. I can put it off to the side over here. This is where things start to get overcomplicated, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. I also don't want to get behind because I decided not to plan. If I do something like this. Getting caught up. So there's a forklift garage. I can get this connection over here. Can I not? That's not going to be straight. All right. Get rid of you. Get this connection down first. Go ahead and get the forklift garage established. Like so. And then the warehouse would go right over here. There's a road connection, or I can do like this kind of a thing, so the road connection's a bit more collected, I guess, not as spread out. Though of course it makes the footprint of this entire area a lot deeper than maybe I would have initially liked. But sure, let's go ahead and pop you down like so. This road would go out from here. This road would come out from here. Beauty. Now, let's go ahead and suspend all these constructions. Not that they're connected to any main road, so it's not like they can be built anyway, but I'd like to suspend them just in case I make a mistake somewhere down the line. Call it habit, maybe. And I'm sure there's a button somewhere that I can mass suspend, and I should probably use that instead. I think we're all good here. These things are obviously good to be built. For the time being, let's suspend you as well, because I'm just planning. So this will provide food and meat. If I'm going to bring meat in, I need a refrigerated truck for that. And this will provide clothes and electronics. That's not a bad place to start. You know what? Hey, why don't we go ahead and... I think I got that backwards. This is going to provide the food and meat, and this is going to provide the clothes and electronics. Sorry. let's go ahead and start your construction. Let's keep time moving. And let's make sure that our construction offices are, yes, automatically assigning themselves. And you can see them getting going right off the bat here. No time wasted. They're going to go, they're going to bring foreign workers from Korverud and from Al-Balutakia. They're going to bring resources from these aggregate storage sites and from this storage site as well, this open storage area, to drop them off at the various construction sites. And the way construction works, again, I apologize for repeating myself or for stating what's familiar to those of you that are already fans of the game, but I hope you understand that me giving these explanations are probably helping people who are seeing this game for the first time understand what's going on, and they might join our wonderful, wonderful and growing community of people that love the depth of workers and resources, like myself. I still remember my initial playthrough was going to be a 10-episode miniseries, and it lasted 230 something episodes. I lost myself in the game, my goodness. But here's how construction works. It'll always have multiple phases, and for each phase, it'll require various raw materials, and it'll require a certain number of work days. And to work those work days, we'll need a certain number of workers. They can be from anywhere. They can walk over from a nearby house, they can be brought over by a bus that drops them off at a bus station nearby, or they can come in from these customs houses, right? And we're paying them for being foreign workers. Right now, we're relying on the foreign workers, but you can see 9.4 tons of gravel just got dropped off, and so that's less needed for this current phase. And slowly, you'll see things come through, phase by phase, get built up, again, phase by phase. And yeah, it takes some time. As we see 10 tons of concrete get dropped off. It takes some time, but it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. What other city builder does this? Yeah, what other city builder does this? Missing resource asphalt. Well, hopefully it'll come through. I believe I have everything I need to facilitate the movement of it. Keep an eye out for it. We have our distribution offices, by the way, still bringing resources up over here. It's the construction offices that are bringing resources to the actual construction sites. And there's other stuff that I need to build quickly, by the way. I need to go ahead and establish, for example, an electric substation. I need to make sure it's close enough to all these buildings so that they will be powered by said electric substation. So it'll need to go down like over here to make sure it's optimally placed. And then I'm going to have to hook that up to a source of power. Now, is this where I want the substation to go? Yeah, sure. I mean, none of these buildings need power, fortunately, but if I put down a factory or something up over here, and that is the plan, then this seems like a sweet spot for it. Go as far as we can go while maintaining power supply. So that sounds like right about... Where'd you go, buddy? Here. Fair enough. Road is straight enough for me, yeah. Copy down there. Let's go ahead and immediately suspend construction, though. I don't want people being distracted by that. I want the construction sites over here to be the focus right now. And yeah, we're getting our asphalt as well. Excellent. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. And eventually, workers are going to come through as well. You're an empty bus. Oh, you're probably heading down to Balutakia. Now, I could build the road out and connect like a nice winding road over to Al-Balutakia, and that'll probably be faster. In fact, you know what? I probably should do that. We're so close already. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Because right now, the bus from this construction office needs to go up, down, all the way around. You can see it going right now, all the way around. Then back up, then back over, whereas it could have just gone from here. So let's take a moment here to neatly extend our connection. It's going to drive me wild, isn't it? Because I had a nice grid going, and I'm going to break it right off the bat. Well, first let's pull you out to here. For as long as we can go. Right up to... there, that sounds good. And then too steep of a descent. Might need to have pull back a little bit. I like this as well, that you actually have to care about how steep the terrain is to properly navigate it. Let's pause for a second here. Because ideally that bus would take this route back, though I think it's already committed to its existing road. Alright, eventually got it to work. I had to shift just a little bit further over. You can see this massive cliff that we've ended up making. But just shifting a little bit over has allowed us to get all the way down to here. And that should then allow us to get, yes, all the way down to this road. And again, just a dirt path for the time being, so I don't care too much about the unclean connection. It is temporary, but this should make it a lot easier for this bus to go and come back with some workers. So you're going to come through over here. You're going to pick up all these workers. Yeah, excellent. Now, how are you going to make your way back? Have you predetermined your route, or are you going to take the shortcut that we've so painstakingly built for you? Moment of truth here. Let's see what they do. Come on, buddy. I believe in you. I believe in you. Damn it. That's okay. The next route, the next round rather, they'll take the shorter path for sure. All right, we've got some construction workers working away over here. They're waiting for. See, I knew it. I knew I'd let something through. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. The thing's like almost certainly going to be built. It's just funny to me that I called it. All right. How are we looking over here otherwise? Looking okay? All kinds of resources. What are we sitting around for? Why are we not moving anything? I'm assuming because all the resources have already arrived. Yeah, we just need work days now. Fair enough. So while we're waiting for that, I mean, I guess I could get some resources coming over here. Let's unsuspend this construction. At least get all the resources to arrive. And hopefully none of the workers get distracted. And no, I'm not intentionally saying workers and resources repeatedly, I promise you. The question now, though, is where do we get the power from? I have the medium voltage connections over here, but I've noticed now that up over here as well we have medium voltage connections. I thought this was high voltage connections only at first. I missed it. See, if you have a high voltage connection only to a foreign power, then you need to actually build a transformer of your own to convert the high voltage into medium voltage and then distribute it through the power substations. But we already have access to medium up there and down here, so we don't need a transformer. We just need to get power lines going. That feels like a very long and hideous route over, but so too does this. Jeez. Decisions. Let's go and... Do I want to suspend your construction? I sure suspend you again. Let's go ahead and establish the medium voltage line. This is the one that carries the most. And I believe I'll just want to kind of take you across here. Can I snap? How clean is that? Is that the grid I want? Only kind of, sort of. Well enough, I guess. Right. 1.3 kilometers, eh? Go all the way across. Like, that doesn't feel... There we go. That feels a bit more parallel to our road. Drop you down there. Again, it doesn't auto-construct. I do have to say time to build. And I will shortly. And then our people will start to build it. So this will get built up. It'll provide power to all these houses and any other, apartments that we put down in the area. It'll provide power to the grocery stores and stuff like that. This road will hopefully be a bit more interesting. I mean, we'll figure out, like, what I might want to do is flip this road around so that rather than connecting the way it did previously, it'll connect like this. And then over here we'll have housing, and instead cargo vehicles will come around back to deliver cargo to the warehouse, for example. Something like that. On which note, though, I probably should build a warehouse that I'm going to use for construction purposes. If we take a look at our warehouse option over here, it stores the mechanical components, electronic components. I need them in such few quantities. That's what's causing me hesitation here. Like, if I go ahead and say, sure, let's start the construction of planned infrastructure, which is just this power line for the time being, go for it. We can see that this entire line is going to cost us, what, 4.9 tons of steel? We're already storing that in the open storage, and 0.59 tons of electronic components. Do I really need a whole warehouse for that? That's one round trip from the customs house, right? And that's for this entirety of a connection. So I don't want to jump the gun on that. Feels wasteful. How are we looking over here right now? Another bus coming through full of workers? Yeah. Where are you coming through to? The grocery store? Let's prioritize the grocery store. Yeah, good stuff. Sure. Yeah, got these construction workers. Construction working away. I was excited. I mean, this is... I'm really pumped. Playing realistic mode is super cool. Slowly chipping away. It's going to be another 60 work days before we're done with the groundworks alone. And then it'll be, what, another 180 work days, I guess? But we'll need to bring the resources over first. Again, it's all done in phases. It's not like everyone just jumps the gun and gets ahead of themselves. What I do want to see, apart from these buses getting their gas when they're out, what I do want to see is... you, yes, that's right. Going to the customs house, using the road that we carved out for you. And I do mean carved out. There's a lot of people digging away at 33 degrees Celsius, my goodness. A lot of people probably died of heat stroke putting this road down. Yeah, good stuff. I mean, that's so much faster than the old route. 46 workers waiting to be picked up. Now, are they all going to be picked up? By the way, when we're looking at workers, there's two categories of them. These guys in suits, they are a higher tier, if you will, and they can exclusively work certain jobs, but they'll take any job that they can get, obviously. Whereas you've got, it's based on who has a university education versus not. So teachers, for example, wear suits, scientists, researchers, party officials, things like that. But all those buildings typically also need the folks without degrees. So I guess it is actually faster to take this road up to the grocery store. That's wild. I mean, sure, fair enough. The game's doing its calculations. I trust it. But how are we looking over here? No workers or mechanisms. That's, again, if the construction offices had, like, cranes and stuff, which... do we have an empty spot? We don't. But if I wanted to... you know what, actually, it's the 60s. I don't think I have access to... oh, I do. Well, that's tempting. Get another construction office established. Fill it with cranes. And again, we've got excavators. We've got bulldozers. There's another crane for you. Speed is just speed, or is it performance as well? Because you'll see if I look at the excavator. Oh, let's go with default. Or sorry, if I look at the crane, we got speed / level 23 versus speed / level 26. I wonder if I shouldn't get some of these cranes. And then the bulldozers and stuff will allow us to terraform land, actually. You know what? We've got free construction offices available. Where am I? We can get how many more of these down? 4 more of them down? If I can do it without flattening terrain, I'd be happier, but it doesn't seem to be an option. Drop you down over here. Oh, now you want me to get an excavator? Fair enough. Drop you down there. Let's go ahead and purchase a couple of these cranes. The T138. I think that's the better crane. What's the worst that could happen? Grab one of these, see what that does for us. And yeah, I could get some excavators as well. 33. 22. Don't feel the need just quite yet. Yeah, let's see how this crane plays out, and if it actually helps. Small crane for a small building. Missing bricks, really? We're out of bricks? Just pick them all up over here. This guy, where are you headed to? The grocery store. I guess that time of the construction has come. Fair enough. 13 tons each, I'm guessing? Yeah. We're only storing 12 tons, so this is what I mean exactly. Let's go ahead and get more bricks coming through over here. We're not collecting wood right now, nor are we collecting prefab panels. More bricks. No prefab panels, no aluminium. Less steel. Don't want to go bankrupt. Alright, that should be good. That should be good. Hopefully we'll get some more bricks coming through. I wish I'd seen that coming a little bit sooner. It's gonna slow us down a bit. Drop off all the steel we need here. How are we looking over here right now? Almost a full work site. Still working on the groundworks though. Up over here. Alright, we've got the crane arriving. You don't have any buddy to work you. do you? You don't have all the resources you need either, do you? So let's see. Let's see how this plays out. We're waiting on some bricks. And I think we'll need actual workers as well. Plenty of bricks available right now. And you can see in the distance here these lines being built up as well. Oh, hey. The construction workers. That is terrifying. That is terrifying. Imagine doing this job. My goodness. No workplace safety laws in this era, I imagine. Well, actually, I don't know. Huh. Somebody far more educated than me on the topic will probably have a better answer there. But yeah, let's get the power line built. There's no reason to hold off on that. We'll need the substation before we can actually distribute the power, obviously, but might as well get the line built. Bricks are coming through. I believe it'll be for the grocery store. Yes, indeed. So once you arrive, still no workers here. We've got all the bricks. And the crane, I imagine, will just facilitate the rate of construction. Hopefully you guys are coming on over to the grocery store. Yes, 38 workers. Just want to see if we can't get this thing built. That's some good hustle and bustle, though. I mean, things are moving, things are building. People have arrived. Yeah, that's going a lot faster than before, isn't it? That crane is making a huge difference. Oh, hell yeah. Alright, I'm glad I bought the crane. Look at that. Look at that. Our first building. Truly a momentous occasion to kick things off. A grocery store. How representative that we care for the people first and foremost. There it is, folks. The Ashkekal Grocery Store. Soon, I'm sure, to be renamed. If you have better name suggestions, I'm always open to them, especially if ones are fitting for the theme of a town or city or whatever it might be, or, of course, the theme of the channel. But, folks, with our first building built, I think it's a good time to call it a session. We're roughly at that hour mark that I like to keep these to. This was a bit of a slower session than most will be because I was doing a lot of explaining of how things work. But next session, we're going to dive right into it. We're going to go ahead and establish our supply of water. We're going to continue building some of these structures as well. We're going to get food and stuff flowing in from the outside. And apart from establishing access to water, we might also establish our first factory so that we can start exporting something and actually making money as opposed to simply losing it. I know they say you got to spend money to make money, but so far we're only doing the first half, and that's not sustainable. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, you know what to do. Let me know by leaving a like and a comment down below. As always, it lets me know what people are enjoying on the channel, lets me know what I should do more or less of, how I should go about doing it. If you have feedback, thoughts, suggestions, questions, whatever it might be, let me know down below. I should let you know actually that I am currently actually out of country. So if I'm a little slow to respond to your comments or a little slow to react to them, that's why, because I've actually recorded a handful of episodes in advance, but as soon as I come back, you can rest assured that I'm taking notes based on your comments, and I will be implementing all that I can, depending on when we are, rather where we are, when I get back. But yeah, folks, if you had a good time, hit that like button. I cannot believe we're on the cusp of 1.0 for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. I've been waiting for this for so very, very long, and my goodness, it is as good as I remember. As always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly. And of course, a big old thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.